American Express Open Business Cards from American Express can help cover the big purchases you need to make when you need to make them. Find out how American Express Open Cards and Services can help prepare you for growth at open.com.
Scott Burnside, ESPN.com here on the latest edition of Hockey Today, the podcast. We hear from Henrik Lundqvist of the New York Rangers. Trevor Daley of the Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins stops by. And so does Charlie Coyle of the Minnesota Wild.
This is Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Every veteran out there that we, salute for their service. And again, this is their day, and their day should be every day.
Ravens beat the Browns last night.
Look at end zone. Look for Perriman, who makes the catch. Touchdown, Ravens.
World champion Cleveland Cavaliers. I want to give a special thanks to J.R. Smith's shirt for showing up.
Now, here's Mike and Mike.
Here we are, Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. It's been a fun and filled Football Friday today. We had Ron Jaworski in hour number 2. We had Dominique Foxworth in hours 2 and 3. We got Joey Galloway here in hour number 4. It's a good time to remind you, you can listen to any and all 4 hours of Mike and Mike on demand in the ESPN app. You can also subscribe there to the Best of Mike and Mike podcast, all available in the Listen tab of the ESPN app. And with that, we say good morning, Joey Galloway.
Good morning. Happy to see you. You haven't been here the last couple of times I've been in. Good to see you.
I've had a couple of Fridays off, and sandwiched in between those, we had our day, Mike, in Chicago.
Yes, we did. Yep.
Where you made yourself a beloved local figure by wearing your Cleveland jersey, entire uniform.
It worked for that night.
It did for your team, but one way or another. It's a pleasure to have Joey in here. And let's dive right in because we've done no college today. We'll have plenty of time to get into some of the NFL stuff. But, Joey, let's dive right into it with the College Game Day Silverado, the Chevy Silverado, which is heading to Seattle, Washington this weekend. Mike, we had the question earlier this morning, who's more likely to get into their respective playoff, the Washington football team in college or the Washington football team in the NFL? Golic picked college. He likes them to run the table and get in. If there's a spot where they're going to get tripped up, this could be one of the first ones, Joey. What do you see in this game?
I see Washington winning this game. Washington is a really good football team. You know, when we usually look at teams, we say, hey, they're pretty good here, they're pretty good there. Washington has been solid all season long, offensively and defensively. And I don't get into offensive line a whole lot, but this is one offensive line that when you turn on the film and watch them play, the things they do stand out. They jump off the screen at you. And I would say that's probably happened to me probably 2 or 3 times in all the film I've ever watched that an offensive line jumps out to me like that. But their offensive line does. And so they give Jake Browning a lot of time to stand in the pocket, and that's why he's up in the Heisman conversation now, because he has it as easy as any quarterback out there as far as the amount of time he has standing in the pocket. I like Washington to not only win this game, but win out.
Agree, and this is the challenge, big challenge for him here, and then obviously Washington State as well. I do watch a lot of O-line, being a guy who played against them all my life, and you are correct about them. This is an excellent offensive line. They do like they run the ball more than throw. They like to run it, and they do it well with Gaskin being their leading rusher. But Browning has to, you said it there. We talk about a lot of times offensive line in the guise of running the ball, like we do with the Raiders to help their running game. I think they're 5th in the league or higher, and the Cowboys, how well it helps their running game. But also the protection of the quarterback. The Cowboys and the Raiders, have their quarterback hit the least. Washington, they don't give up a lot of sacks. So and that is huge. And defensively, this is a team, I think, over the last X amount of few years, they're 3rd or 4th in sacks with a 4-man rush. Yeah. They don't need to blitz a lot. They can get pressure with that 4-man line. Now, they did lose their top rusher, who hadn't played in the previous 3 games anyway, but he had foot surgery. Maybe back in time for the playoffs. We'll see. But I think this team has been undersold a little bit. Greeny, the way you put it, I kind of agree. I think the committee is looking for a reason to get them out. Just wonder, can they knock them out? And I'm with you, Joey. I think they win the rest of them. I think they're going to be right there. It's just a matter of, will anybody lose in front of them? What will they be ranked in the top 4 when we get to the Final Four?
I don't see them losing, and I don't see. And again, I've disagreed with a lot of people on the idea of getting two teams out of one conference in. Washington deserves to be there. And I do believe that Washington deserves to be in that conversation regardless, because we talk about Washington in terms of if they lose a game, then they're out. Whereas we talk about a lot of other teams, if they lose a game, we're still talking about how can they get into this thing. I just think Washington's as talented as anyone out there, the Alabamas and the Clemsons of the world.
That's the one that becomes really interesting to me, because you're exactly right. Right now, if everything played out to where there are 4 unbeatens, one each from the 4 top conferences in college football this year, if they went out, then there's nothing to talk about.
No.
Right.
The question then becomes if and when, because history tells us they're not all going to win out. If and when they start to lose, who is it that has a chance to lose and stick around? Ohio State has a loss. I think we all generally feel like if Ohio State beats Michigan and wins the Big Ten, they wind up in the playoff and there's nothing really to worry about there.
Yep.
To me, the question is, can you go one deeper than that in the conference? And you know who I'm talking about? We're talking about Wisconsin with 2.
I thought you were going to say Northwestern.
No, Northwestern. Listen, we've rebounded from a very tough start. We're not a contender for the college football playoff this year.
No, you're not.
Wisconsin, to me, is. They have 2 very tough one-possession losses against teams that are currently ranked number 3 and number 5 in the overall standings. Then you take that and you couple it with the fact that they would have to avenge one of those losses in a Big Ten championship game scenario in order to win the conference. If they did that, would we see a 2-loss Wisconsin with a conference championship vaulting over a very high-profile 1-loss team? Say Louisville, who's had a tremendous year. Say, I'm just making this up now, Alabama should lose a game somewhere along the line. Does Wisconsin get in?
The Louisville schedule is an issue. And you're talking about a team in Wisconsin that has gone to the Big Ten championship game and won it. So now they are a conference champion. Louisville is eliminated in my mind because they won't be the ACC champ unless Clemson slips up, which is difficult to fathom Clemson slipping up at this point. So Louisville, in my opinion, is out. And couldn't get there at this stage unless a lot of teams lose. But to think about putting a team in over a conference champion, a conference like the Big Ten, to me, it would never happen and should never happen.
Yeah, I think in the end I would agree with that. You know, Greeny brought up teams that were in the teens after the second ranking that made it all the way into the Final Four. Do you see that team? I had brought up Colorado or Utah. If they were to make it from their side, obviously, and play Washington, an undefeated Washington, and they were to win the Pac-12 with 2 losses, they probably need some help in front of them, but maybe those 2 teams. Any of those, do you think that's a possibility, or any of those other teams in that area that could sneak in?
Colorado's a possibility. They still have to play Utah.
Right.
And if Colorado beats Utah and they get into the Pac-12 championship game and then knock off Washington, especially an undefeated Washington, Colorado is that team.
Would Utah not be that team because they already lost to Washington? Even if they if they beat Colorado and get to Washington again and have a rematch and win that one, you think they would have less of a shot?
Yeah, and I think that's the problem is they've already lost to Washington, right. And I think that we are sort of grasping at, because Green, as you say that if these 4 teams went out, they're in. We have a 4-hour show to do on Selection Sunday, so don't say that out loud.
No, you're rooting for it.
We need.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You've been in those situations where you're talking about something and there's just really no.
If not, you need a lot of film material.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly. So if these 4 teams went out, then it's not a foregone conclusion that they get in.
Well, here's what I'll give you. I'll make you feel better. It's a foregone conclusion they won't all win out. History tells us there's no chance of that
happening. Now, the history is only 2 years of this, but I would agree with you. In general,
show me the last season that we had in which you had 4 unbeaten teams at the end of the year from major conferences.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
In fact, show me that, Paul Carr. Can we find that? Has there been a year in which the regular season ended? Forget about the system, whether it was this system, the BCS system, or even before that we had 4 unbeaten teams from major conferences when the season ended. I'm going to guess that it has happened very seldom in history.
I would agree.
If at all. The Game Day picks are brought to you by Chevy Silverado, dependably getting game day to game day. I want to circle back, though, on something that we were talking about a moment ago, because if you look at Wisconsin and their chances of making something happen, if you're telling me Louisville is out, That's going to be a fascinating dynamic because Louisville has the most interesting player in the country, a player who right now, last I saw, was 1-30 to win the Heisman, and not because he's going to lead the league in rushing by running through the tackles, but because he's the most dynamic and exciting player the sport has and has seen in recent memory. They lost basically by 1 yard against a team that is currently unbeaten and ranked number 2 in the country, and yet we're saying at this point they would lose out to a 2-loss Wisconsin, a 2-loss Colorado. You know what I'm saying? Like those would be very interesting decisions.
Well, the problem is, and when we talk about Louisville, we talk about their loss, and then when you try to reach to talk about their wins,
they killed Florida State.
They killed Florida State, who now has 3 losses and not looking like the Florida State we expected. And beyond that, these other teams will be able to have on their resume wins. Important wins, big wins. And just like you talked about Wisconsin losing to Ohio State and losing to Michigan in close games because they're highly ranked teams, you do give Louisville credit for losing to Clemson, but then you have to back that up with, okay, so then they went on to beat certain teams. And I really think they hurt themselves when they played a close game to Duke. I think they beat Duke by like 10 points at home.
Correct, 24-14.
The Virginia game, which came down to the last possession of the game.
32-25.
If you're going to play a schedule that is somewhat weak, you have to go in and run the other team over and leave no doubt that we are better than they are.
And we know what could have saved them from all this. They could have had those wins, but Houston could have been undefeated. Houston could have been rated higher like they would have been. They'd have been rated high, and then that would have been the matchup. But then that's what happens when you have the schedule Louisville does. You had to bank on that to happen, and it didn't happen for them. So that crushed them. That could have overdone the lackluster wins if they had that game still to hang on, but they don't anymore. So it's tough to come back from that.
To be clear, when we talk about their schedule, they play in a major conference.
They do.
I mean, just the way that the scheduling fell this year, they don't have wins to hang your hat on, and Florida State was supposed to be that. When they played Florida State was the number 2 team in the country. Mm-hmm. They could have scored. I mean, the coach has said they had to pull back, otherwise I was going to score 80 on them. They won 63-20. They dominated every way you can. It's not their fault that Florida State Ven has wound up not being.
It isn't their fault, but the committee will
I guess my point is, I don't like arguing against myself. I like 4 rather than 8 for the college football playoff. But boy, would Louisville have an argument. I mean, you want to talk about a team, if they really do wind up getting left out, and a team like Wisconsin, who I would support, gets in with 2 losses, or a 2-loss Pac-12 champion winds up getting in, and Louisville sits there watching that thing from at the finish, you want to talk about a team that would have a loud argument to make. Let me give you another one. How about this one for you, Joey Galloway? How about a 2-loss Auburn? If Auburn stuns the world and wins at Alabama in the Iron Bowl and then wins the SEC championship game, do they get in?
Let me say this. I do not see Auburn beating Alabama. It is going to take and LSU came in with and did as much as they possibly could and played as well as they possibly could and still could not hold on for 4 quarters. I do not see Auburn doing that. But if we play the game and Auburn does knock off Alabama and Auburn does go to the SEC championship game and wins that game, they won't get a big push from beating the team in the East. But the winner of the SEC gets in.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter who it is. They get in. They deserve to get in. And then the conversation then becomes, does Alabama stay at home? And as I look, if we stayed where we are, if we stayed with you take out Alabama, but Clemson, Michigan, Washington stay undefeated, they get in. They deserve to get in.
Who gets in?
Clemson,
Auburn.
Michigan, Washington, and then Auburn being your 14.
Which means Alabama's out.
That wins the SEC.
Alabama has to be out. Alabama's not getting – Auburn would have beaten them to not get into the SEC championship game, and the other 3 are undefeated. Bama's not going – Booger sat here yesterday and tried to say he could see a 1-loss Alabama getting over a Pac-12 undefeated champion in Washington, and I couldn't disagree with that any more than anything I've ever disagreed with him about.
I couldn't either.
It's not going to happen.
But because it's just fun playing out these scenarios.
Yeah.
Auburn beats Alabama and loses the SEC championship game to Tennessee. Alabama gets that bid, right? You're not putting Tennessee in the Final Four.
Well, you're making some fun hypotheticals.
What else have I got to do?
Yeah, you're reaching here. In that scenario,
they got to play.
They have to. The SEC has to get in.
That's what I mean.
And Alabama,
in that scenario, Alabama would remain the best candidate from the conference.
I agree with you. And Alabama has. I would say it's been a long time since I've seen a team look this dominant and have such a gap between Alabama and whoever else you want to pick. They've been that good. There are matchup issues, though. You know, when you look at if they did face a Clemson, I mean, now all of a sudden they're facing a team that has a quarterback that can make some plays. They have not. What quarterback have they had to see that had to make some plays against this Alabama defense?
Maybe against Ole Miss?
Chad Kelly is what they do offensively is they're going to take their 6'4" wide receiver, and they're going to find the man-to-man coverage, and they're going to throw the ball up and down the field, which is great against Alabama because it gets the ball out of your quarterback's hands. He's not standing in the pocket, taking these hits. Throw it up and see if your 6'4" guy can outduel their defensive back. So I wouldn't say that they have faced a Deshaun Watson type of quarterback. They faced a Chad Kelly type of quarterback who is, I'm going to take a 50-50 chance that my guy can win.
Greeny, you want to throw your hypotheticals out there, and we talk about the second week ranking and, you know, the teams that were in the teens. How about a team in the second week that was ranked 22nd? Who was that?
What are you pointing to?
22nd right now. Who's
right now? 22nd is Boise State.
Oh, I'm you know what? Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. They're not even rated. They're not even. I was looking at the AP. How about Florida? What if Florida beats Bama in the SEC championship game?
That's what I'm saying.
Florida has about as much chance of beating Bama.
I agree. I'm playing Greeny's game. I'm sorry. I was looking at the AP where Florida's 22. They're not rated in the top 25 of the college football. But I'm playing Greeny's game, and then I'm playing to your game of somebody from the SEC is going. So now, if Florida wins out, Florida has 2 losses. If they represent from the East and it's Bama from the West, now they would move up incrementally with their wins, Florida would, and then beats Bama. It's a team that's not ranked in the top 25 right now, that because we say the SEC's got to get there, if Florida beat Alabama, and I agree with you, if that happens, I don't think there's any chance it'll happen.
Wow.
But Florida would get in then, right?
Although it would take, I agree, something that would have happened to Bama, somebody getting hurt.
Agreed.
Somebody getting suspended. Coach Saban retiring, something would have to happen to Bama that we would then say Bama is no longer Bama.
I can tell you what could happen. Coach Saban could become aware there had been an election this weekend. He could be so taken aback by that news because it seems to have eluded him.
That he could forget he had a game to play.
He might not even coach his team that week. He could be so taken aback. All right, let me wrap up the college football part of this conversation with a couple of nerd notes. I put together nerd notes this week. I was going through some of the packets yesterday. Mike and I had a photo shoot. I was sitting in a hotel by myself. I had nothing to do.
Of the three of us, only you could put the nerd notes together.
That's correct. So I'm going to do if you guys are ready, I'm going to put together a little on-the-fly version of my nerd notes here, and we'll run through a little bit of that. Here we go.
News you didn't even know you needed or even want.
Well, if I was you, I'd do something about it.
These are Mike and Mike's Nerd Notes.
All right, I'm going to give you 3 nerd notes about 3 of the top 4 teams in the country.
Nerd alert!
First off, Washington hosting USC. A win will bring back fond memories for the Huskies as they are trying to start out 10-0 for just the second time in school history. The first time they did it, the only time they did it, was 1991, and in that year, they won a share of the national championship. So Washington has been here before. It's been 25 years, but the last time they got as close as this, they wound up taking it all the way to the house.
Yeah, I think they're going to do it again, or get by this game, and then we'll see where they can go in the playoff.
Joey agrees, right?
There will be no more share of the national title.
They will not
win it all this time.
That's how long it's been. It predates the BCS. But you're saying, both of you say you like Washington to beat USC.
Yes.
Okay. Next, this is a great stat. Alabama hosts Mississippi State this weekend. It will be Nick Saban's 45th game in his career coaching the number 1 team in the country. That will tie Woody Hayes and Bobby Bowden for the most ever. So if they win this week, and certainly they're expected to, next week, Nick Saban will coach the number 1 team in the country, and he will have done so in more games than any coach in the history of college football.
Let me just say this then. By the time Nick Saban is done coaching, he will have put that out of reach.
Yeah, I agree.
He
with
will
that.
have put that out of reach.
I think it is. You caught me off guard, Bobby Bowden being in that. I would have never guessed that he would be
45 games.
Yeah.
45 games in which his team was number one in the AP. Woody Hayes coached 45 games in which his team was number one in the AP. This will be the 45th game Nick Saban coaches the number one.
That's a good
team
one.
In the good look, huh?
Yeah,
huh?
That's a good. I give you that one.
Yeah, that is good. The Bobby Bowden part is really
I think
good.
somebody helped you.
All right, no, I did not. I took them directly from the packet.
Oh.
Nerd alert!
What do you think? I looked that up myself. I went over and I counted all the games that Woody Hayes coached the number one team in the country. They're in the college football packet. Feel free to read it sometime.
I did kind of think that's what happened.
I did too. I thought you had an ounce of integrity.
See Paul Carr sitting over there? It's called research. We have a whole department. They send these whole huge packets of statistics.
They don't like me because
you
I kind of
heard the whole segment right now.
Yeah,
I just distill them
Nerd alert!
down to this. And here's the last one, and I like this a lot. Michigan is number 3 as we speak in the CFP ranking. They're number 2 in the AP. They visit Iowa Saturday night. You know the last time Iowa beat a top 2 team in the country? It was 1985. They beat the number 2 team in the country. That team was Michigan. Michigan's quarterback was Jim Harbaugh.
Wow.
So the only time that Iowa has beaten a top 2 team in the country, they beat Jim Harbaugh and Michigan in 1985. Can they do it again Saturday night, Joey Galloway?
Not a chance.
No.
No.
I almost think Alanis Morissette's "Isn't It Ironic" song should be playing right now. Isn't it ironic?
That's a dated reference.
Yeah,
but it's a good one. Actually, and it's also a little bit of a cheap stat because in that game, Iowa was the number 1 team in the country. Michigan was 2. Iowa was number 1. That was the year with Chuck Long. That was my freshman year of college. Iowa came into Evanston to play Northwestern.
Yeah.
That's the famous year where all the Iowans drank my beer.
Is that where you had to go get the beer for everybody and they took your beer?
This is why I hate Iowa to this day.
Yeah.
Not the state, not the people, but the football program because they came. My job, I was a pledge at a fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
They came and played us in Evanston, and our job as pledges was to smuggle a keg of soda into the stadium the night before the game.
Seriously?
And then during the game, I would have to go constantly bringing.
That's
back
awesome, by the way.
drinks.
Sinking a keg in and then filling up that's
Not uncommon.
Yeah, no, I know. Listen, I was usually on the field. I didn't get to play those reindeer games.
This is what the fraternity guys do. While you guys are out there, I don't know, playing football. And so I'm walking. Now, if anyone's ever been to a Northwestern game, unfortunately, the stands are usually half filled with the other team fans, and they were number 1 in the country at that time, so it was all these black and gold sweaters. They look like bumblebees running around.
So you have a tray of beer.
I got a tray of sodas,
Okay,
that I'm walking back with, and these 4 big Iowans come walking past me, and they're beating us 35-0. And they just start picking up my drinks from my tray and drinking them and putting them back.
Yeah.
And there's literally, I'm me.
Here's the thing.
What can I do?
It could have been 4 little Iowans.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
These were big Iowans.
Or one. It didn't need to be 4.
Or 4 women.
The point that
mattered.
The toughest thing I could say was, hey, man, don't finish that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You didn't carry in the keg, did you?
That's what. So I was thinking the same thing, but I did not want to point out that'd be either a small keg or you had help.
I don't recall. Mike and Mike were presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Lots more to do as I am mocked by Golic and Joey Galloway after this word from Burger King. You know what, Mike? I can't even figure out how this is possible. Right now at Burger King, you can get 3 pancakes for just 89 cents.
When are these going to show up in front of me? 3 hot, fluffy, golden pancakes, 89 cents, gang. That is a crazy deal. When's the last time you got a stack of anything for 89 cents? And right now you get it at Burger King. This is not breakfast. This is Burger King breakfast. 3 hot, golden pancakes served up with sweet syrup for just 89 cents. Only at Burger King. Limited time only. Price and participation vary. We are back after this on Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike, the NFL weekend is underway. Ravens beat the Browns last night 28-7. Cleveland is 0-10. Ravens a half-game lead now in the AFC North. Warriors beat the Nuggets last night 125-101. Kevin Durant failed to score 20. That was a 72-game streak of that sort he had snapped. And the college basketball season begins tonight. We got 2 top 12 matchups in the Armed Forces Classic. You'll see it on ESPN, 7 Eastern. Arizona, Michigan State. And then Indiana, Kansas. Good games. SportsCenter, Mike and Mike, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless.
Other wireless providers say they're going to cut your bill in half, but who knows what kind of coverage you're going to get. With Straight Talk Wireless, you get nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks, and their no-contract unlimited plan is just $45 a month.
According to animalsandenglish.com, a group of mongoose is called a band.
A band?
A curiosity, or a pack.
A curiosity? Okay, that's stupid. A pack or a band, I get.
I prefer a curiosity.
Not me.
I was playing golf in South Africa, and suddenly I was attacked by a curiosity of mongoose.
Well, they didn't attack.
Well, whatever. I encountered.
Yes, you encountered a curiosity of mongooses.
Wow. Can I give you one other thing quickly here?
Go ahead.
I asked, and Paul Carr delivered. The last 2 times that there were 4 bowl-eligible teams that were unbeaten at the end of the season, it has happened, but there's a caveat. So in 2009, Alabama, Texas, TCU, Cincinnati, Boise State were all unbeaten. Now, clearly, Alabama and Texas lived in one world in those days, and the others lived in another. 2004, USC, Oklahoma, Auburn, Utah, and Boise State. That's the very famous year where you had the 3 teams and one had to get left out. The one that got left out was Auburn. They won their bowl game. They wound up, making championship rings and stuff like that because they got left out of the BCS championship game. The point is, Boise State is always one of them.
Right.
You know, to have 4 major conference champions all be unbeaten at the end of the season, it's never happened. It doesn't happen. No. So the idea that it's going to happen this year is just extraordinarily unlikely.
I do. I do. I agree with you. I don't. But you sit there and try and think of a loss. We both think Washington's gonna run through. Do we think Alabama? You know, they're going to lose to Auburn. That's going to be the place.
Michigan could certainly lose to Ohio State.
Michigan can certainly lose to Ohio State.
Michigan should have 2. Well, actually, Iowa Saturday night is no picnic, and then they've still got to play Ohio State, and then assuming it goes this way, they would then have to play Wisconsin again. That's not an easy path.
No, it's not.
Michigan's going to get there. They're going to earn it.
They have the hardest path to get there.
Is the easiest path, is it Clemson?
Clemson's path is pretty easy. Alabama's path, because of how Alabama's playing, looks easy to me. I mean, the SEC East champion that Alabama might have to play, let's say it's Florida, who has no offense whatsoever, and their defense, who's statistically pretty good, but not very physical to me when I watch them. But Washington's schedule they'd probably have to see Utah in the championship game or Colorado. I think Washington's fairly, I don't want to say easy, but they should do it. Michigan has a tough road.
Yeah, and we'll see about Clemson. They could face, North Carolina kind of hurt their chances to play in that one with their loss.
They'll probably see Virginia Tech.
They'll probably see Virginia Tech
in
the championship game. So, yeah.
All right, well, let's let this thing play out. But again, history tells us the chances that there are going to be 4 major college conference unbeaten champions is It's next to nothing. The chances are next to nothing. Okay, Roger Goodell said yesterday during a conference hosted by the New York Times that the league is looking at a variety of ways to shorten game broadcasts, including trimming some advertising to keep that action moving. It's one of many different topics we've talked about. Joey, we associate you now with college because that's what you cover here at ESPN, but you're a great NFL player for a long time. If you had to pinpoint, there are many reasons, clearly, why NFL ratings have come down. We can point at a lot of things. Mm-hmm. If I asked you to name what you think is the single biggest reason that NFL ratings have been down this year, what would you point your finger at?
I would say the quality of play, because I'm sitting here and I was just looking at the schedule, the NFL schedule, and I, for as long as I can remember, on Sunday, I sit down and I watch football for my entire life. And as I sit here and look at this schedule of games that are being played this Sunday, there are only maybe 2 of these games that jump off the screen at me and say, I want to watch that game. Texans,
one of them
Jaguars.
is at night, right? So one of them is at night. It's
yes,
Seattle,
and
New England.
And that's Seattle,
clear is
New
at
England.
night. So you got this whole slate of games during the day.
Yes. And I don't know that one jumps off to me as interesting. The Cowboys-Steelers, because it is Cowboys-Steelers.
Right.
You watch the Cowboys play the Steelers as far back as anybody can remember. What else jumps off?
Well, I mean, listen, for me, I can find something interesting in all the games. You know, we had Dominic Foxworth in here, and I think along the lines with him. There's something within every game I can find interesting as a football player, but may not relate to people that are watching the game. So we're looking at it fully.
I'm struggling to find some, though.
No, I am. I mean,
I'm with you there.
Carolina against the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are the second best team in the AFC. Can Carolina come back from that slow start and continue, and try and climb back in? I mean,
Bears-Buccaneers, give me something.
Bears-Buccaneers, I mean, the Buccaneers have been up and down. Can they make any kind of run at all? Can Jameis Winston show some consistency at the quarterback position? So there will pick a game. I absolutely could find something.
Now, I see what you're saying, but and I agree with that, and I'm actually a Buccaneers fan because I played there. But can Jameis Winston develop through a season? I don't know that makes me sit down for 4 hours and watch it.
But my point is,
like, it's difficult
I guess that's
for me
the
to
point.
see that. Packers, Titans, it's difficult.
You individually said it would be tough for you. I'm just telling you, just for me, I can do it because I can find something like that again. But you know what? That's not going to help ratings because they're not trying to get me to watch. The people that they're trying to get to watch, to me, I do think the amount of flags is a big reason. I do think the fact that what other sport the most do we see a play, and we see passing more than running. So we see passes down the field more than anything else, and quarterbacks getting hit. And you're looking for a flag. So it just chops the game up, and I think it hurts the game, and I think you kind of go from there. There are a multitude of reasons, but I think that's a big reason.
The hitting being one, and when you talk about the flags, the hitting, the receivers, the stuff we see now, where it's like, what is that? Like, what else was he supposed to do? Like, I'm not talking about the egregious hits. I'm talking about the ones where you, as a fan, you look and you say, you see a safety coming in and hitting the guy to jar the ball loose, and they throw a penalty, and you're like, what are we watching now?
Right. I agree, because
what is this? I don't know what this is.
You make the rule, and then it just seems like it changes throughout to how we keep saying we don't know what a catch is. For a DB, they don't know what a legal hit is anymore. They might still get flagged for what they think is going to be a legal hit.
I say this only for myself. I don't know what percentage of football fans fall in this category. But one of the things that has changed, certainly nothing has ruined my enjoyment of football. I watch football every week. Every time it's on, I do watch it, and I still do enjoy it. But one of the things that has dramatically changed the way I watch it is the Red Zone channel. I watch it on cable. I have cable, not satellite. So I hear Scott Hansen.
Right.
And every single week, he's an NFL Network anchor. Most people who have that service know who he is, and he does a terrific job taking you from game to game. And one of the things he says all the time is, we don't do commercials here on Red Zone. So I've constantly got action going on. I'm going from here to here. All right, well, no one's in the Red Zone. We'll show you a little bit of this drive. See, Pittsburgh is moving down there. Whatever it is, there's always something interesting going on. Now, when you're just watching one game, it has changed. All of a sudden, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like a football game has a lot of downtime in it that isn't, and you used to never even notice that, and now I find I do. So it's not stopping me from watching, but part of that is that this is my job to watch this stuff. So I don't know how, that can't be the biggest factor because they just can't have tens of millions of people watching
it can't.
The Red Zone channel. But I think it's a factor.
As we mentioned earlier, Roger Goodell came out with statements on saying that trying to pick up the pace of the game or what will make the games look and feel quicker. So we'll see if some of those are enacted.
All right, Joey is here as we continue on our Football Friday next. These are not predictions. These are mortal locks I have for you. Coming up next after this word from Dollar Shave Club. Mike, you know we love Dollar Shave. They've been with us for years now, and the shave is fantastic.
Shave's great. You may not know the other amazing products they have. How about stuff for your hair, your face, for everywhere to keep you feeling and looking fresh? If you're not a member and have never joined Dollar Shave Club, now's the time. You're going to get your first month of razors for free. All you do is pay shipping, and after that, it's only a few bucks. So it makes sense to join today. Just go to dollarshaveclub.com/Mike. That's dollarshaveclub.com/Mike. Back after this on Mike and Mike.
Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Antonio Brown.
The people serving our country means everything to me. You know, those are the real heroes, the people that provide freedom for us, allow us to live free and do the things we do on a daily basis.
Cintas, getting you ready for the workday.
I love magic. I will go to a magic show anytime.
I thought that's where we were starting.
I don't mean Magic Johnson also, whom I also love.
Yeah.
But I love magic and magicians.
Me too.
If you ever go to a dinner party and they will have hired like a magician who comes into the house and does little tricks like right in front of you, I love that.
So do you watch that and just appreciate what they do, or do you try and figure out how they do it?
Oh, I'm always dying to figure out how they do it.
You know what he's doing. He's definitely trying to figure it out. And honestly, that story started and we were all thinking about magic.
I was thinking about magic.
Interested. And as she kept going, you could just kind of see like people falling off like, oh, magic cards. We don't know what that is.
Mike and Mike, all your Twitter reaction all day through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Our Sports Center brought to you by Burger King. How's this even possible? Right now at Burger King, you can get 3 pancakes for 89 cents. 3 hot, fluffy, golden pancakes for just 89 cents. It's unbelievable, but true. 3 pancakes, 89 cents only at Burger King. Mm-hmm. Limited time only. Price and participation vary. Let me see if Joey Galloway agrees. I made the declarative statement earlier this week. Pancakes to me are head and shoulders the best of the carb-based breakfast foods. So I'm taking out eggs. Omelets is a different genre. But of the carb-based breakfast foods, which to me break down into 3 categories, pancakes, French toast, and waffles, to me pancakes are overwhelmingly the best. Agree or disagree?
I would agree, but the problem is, like, they went out because they're the easiest to obtain. You know what I mean? Like, if you're at home, you're going to do French toast.
But I'm not at home. I don't make any of them at home.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
He's never made any of that in his life.
I keep forgetting, like, when we talk about normal stuff.
Yeah, don't talk about him. I'm French toast. I think French toast is better. Of the multiple ways that it can be prepared, the different breads it can be prepared with.
Yet another reason that you're an idiot. Let me give you a cut, man. Just if you like French toast better than pancakes, I got nothing for you. Okay, I can't even. There are certain things I just can't help you.
This is the delineation.
All right, let me get to some of my mortal locks here because this is what people really want. Guys,
yes, they do.
These are not trends. These are locks. All right, I get another packet you might want to consider looking at, and it's the Vegas Storylines packet. And
my bookie takes care of that.
All sorts of historical numbers based upon this packet, Mike. And I want to start for you this week with Seattle. According to Westgate in Vegas, Seattle is a 7.5-point underdog at New England. As the line stands, this would be the biggest underdog Russell Wilson has ever been in his pro career. For the record, in games in which Russell Wilson and Seattle are an underdog of at least 4 points, they are 3-0 against the spread with 2 outright wins. Seattle as an underdog is a great bet with Russell Wilson. They're at New England, 7.5 points. Golic says,
I would I would take Seattle.
Take Seattle with the points.
I think New England wins the game, but I would take Seattle. I think it'd be a close game.
Joey,
I think I agree. Take Seattle with the points for sure.
Vegas history agrees with you. Next is the Dallas Cowboys, as I scroll down my screen here. The Dallas Cowboys, according to Westgate, currently a 2.5-point underdog at Pittsburgh. Dallas, against the spread this season, 7-0-1. They've already covered more in 2 more games this season than they did all of last season. Even New England is not perfect against the spread this year. The Patriots are 7-1 against the spread. New Orleans is 6-2. The Cowboys are 7-0-1 against the number this year. Golic says,
I like the Cowboys. The offense can be impressive for Pittsburgh. It's been a bit inconsistent. Ben is still just second week back from injury. I do not like this Pittsburgh defense against the Dallas offense and that offensive line.
Joey.
We need to know what Ben does in his second game back from injuries. They didn't look good last week.
First game, he's 2-6 now, coming back from
We need to know what he is on the second game. Like, I knew the first game was bad, but can we get the second game back?
That's a good
I'm going to
question.
say he's going to play much better, and I would go with Pittsburgh.
We are Mike and Mike as I continue with mortal locks. Here's another number for you, and this one involves the Chicago Bears. According to Westgate, Chicago is a 1.5-point favorite at Tampa. This is just the 5th time the Bears have been favored in 2 seasons under John Fox. Guess how many of those previous 4 games they've covered?
All of them.
0.
Okay.
Guess how many times they've even won the game?
All of them.
0.
0.
They are 0-4 outright under John Fox in games in which they've been a favorite.
Yeah.
They're a mild favorite at Tampa this week, Golic says.
I'm going with Tampa Bay at home. Tampa Bay is now an inconsistent team as well. I will say that, but I like Tampa in this one. Chicago is just flailing.
Joey,
I like Tampa also. This is that time of year that when you go to Tampa, the heat gets you because you're not used to the warm weather in Chicago, and you go down to Tampa and it's warm and you don't play as well. I'll go with the Buccaneers also.
And then finally, according to Westgate, the New England Patriots are currently a fairly significant favorite to win the Super Bowl this year at 7-5. There are 2 teams that are equal for the next shortest odds. 2 teams that Vegas has behind New England as the next 2 favorites. Can you name them?
I will say the Cowboys and the Chiefs.
I will say the Broncos and I'd like to say the Raiders, but I can't. I'll say
no way Vegas.
The Seahawks.
No way Vegas is respecting the Raiders like that.
You each got one of them right. The answer is Dallas and Seattle. Dallas and Seattle 8-1. Atlanta 14-1. Pittsburgh 16-1. Mike, you mentioned Kansas City. They're 20-1.
Wow. Where was Oakland? They have Oakland in there?
Oakland also is 18-1.
Oh, okay.
Minnesota is also 18-1. Green Bay at 20-1. They're not predictions. They're mortal locks. Mike and Mike, Forward Thinking, brought to you by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit them at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. Here's what's coming up on ESPN Radio this weekend. College basketball starts tonight. I've mentioned it a few times today, the Armed Forces Classic, and we're going to have the coverage on radio for you tonight. Arizona, Michigan State, and Indiana, Kansas. So that's tonight, coast to coast. Good stuff, good games.
Looking forward to the start of that.
The beauty of the college basketball situation is these teams will play each other.
I'll feel it out right now. It's not a whole lot of mattering going on.
We got 2 college games for you on Saturday on radio. We got USC Washington and Mississippi Texas A&M.
Ooh.
They're both also available on the ESPN app. And then our NFL doubleheader on Sunday is Jaguars-Texans at noon, followed by Cowboys and Steelers.
Washington and SC. This is the game. Washington gets it at home. I think they're the better team. USC is playing extremely well right now. This is one of those last hurdles Washington needs, I think, to get over this. And Washington State, obviously, the Pac-12 championship game. But I think this could be a tough one.
And Joey Galloway will continue to demonstrate his patience and courage by sitting next to Danny Cannell for the next 36 hours, right?
Yeah, Saturdays are 15 hours right back there watching TV with Danny.
Just you and Danny.
Wow. And Adnan.
But Adnan...
He's breaking down movies, though.
Adnan is talking... the whole time.
How many movies does he watch while the college games are going on? Joey, you're the best. Thanks a million. Have a great weekend. See you Monday. Mike and Mike.
Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans proudly supports Mike and Mike. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage process into the 21st century. Forget about digging through stacks of paperwork. This completely online process lets you safely share your bank statements and pay stubs with a touch of a button. Using your phone or tablet, you can get approved for purchase or refinance in just a few minutes. Get a custom mortgage solution at your own pace, whenever and wherever you want. So if you're looking to refinance or buy a home, check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/Mikes.
Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
College football lives here. It's a huge showdown in the Pac-12 Saturday night. USC, winners of 5 straight, heads to Seattle to face undefeated Washington.
10, touchdown USC. 72 yards, the big play strike.
The Huskies are desperate to prove themselves, and a win against USC will do just that. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Red-hot USC heads to Seattle to face 4th-ranked Washington.
Far left side of the field for the end zone. Jump ball, Darius Rogers. Touchdown USC.
Coverage begins Saturday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.